It's one of those, though, where you back things up because you think it's going to be the way it is. But like the reality is, like, if we lose the internet, like, I don't know, is it Armageddon? Like, what happens? I don't know. How quickly does society devolve and we're like, Planet of the Apes here? Like, I don't know. It's going to be, like, I don't know if backup passwords in a safe are going to work if nobody's phones are working.
Oh my gosh.
Like, there's no internet to log into.
That's like the modern day version of, as a couple, can you put a tent up together? Or more like, if your power and internet goes out, how long can you last before you kill each other?
With that great segue, we'll start the episode. Hello and welcome back to Random But Memorable. I'm Wade, and I'm here with Sarah and Jaden. How are you guys doing?
I discovered today isn't Monday, so that's a start. We had the holiday weekend here in Canada.
You did.
We have ours the week before Americans, and so it was a very quiet day. Everything was wonderful, and I just assumed it was Sunday for the entire day and missed a hockey game because I thought it was Sunday, and the hockey game's on Monday, so I don't know what I'm going to watch tonight, but it's not going to be hockey.
I'm on pat leave. So Sarah, like you, I don't know what day today is, tomorrow is. I'm loving life. I just respond to messages and hope if I'm needed, I can rock up. So I'm doing fantastic.
Nice.
I can't believe you're going to respond to messages. I have to purposely log out of things in order to cut off. I am a very much workaholic, so I get it.
So why are you here though, Jaden? Then if you're
Oh, well, fine, guys. I'll leave. I'll get out of here.
No, I'm glad you're here. But I feel, are we interrupting important time?
Not at all. No, not at all.
Are you doing a half and half thing?
No, I'm fully off. I funnily enough though, I just got back from 1Password Club. We were in the lovely Croatia, so very fitting topic to talk about travel today. So I'm still in somewhat work mode. Got to connect with some of our peers in the space on a nice boat in the sunsets. But I said to Anna before I left, I was like, you know what, I really like the podcast, and Sarah and Wade, you guys are all right to hang out with too. So I might as well come back and have some chats. So she's one of 3 people I put as a VIP that she can, get straight through the do not disturb noise. So I said, don't abuse it, Anna. Let me know. I'll put you on VIP. But no, I love doing this. So I'm more than happy to be here.
Nice.
Look at you going above and beyond.
Yes, stop it.
I definitely did not. All right. Well, excellent. Well, we've already talked about it a little. We got a travel themed episode lined up today. But first, in Watchtower Weekly, we're looking at why education has become such a tempting target for hackers and how ransomware attacks are evolving. After that, we're going to keep things practical with a crash course on 1Password's travel mode, which totally makes sense with the travel episode, right? What it is, how it works, why it's useful if you're heading through airports or crossing borders. And then to keep the travel conversation going, I'll be sitting down with Gerald Auger from Simply Cyber to nerd out about all things travel and security, from everyday vacation risks to traveling for work and keeping the company status safe. Are either of you traveling anywhere nice for work or vacations this year? Jaden, you already went somewhere else. Do you have anything further planned?
Yeah, so I'm on the Atlantic side of Canada, and every year we go to PEI. Not sure if either of you have been there before, but it is, honestly, I grew up in Australia. I love the beaches there, but one of the best places in the world that I've been to for beaches. It's so nice and relaxing, and I'll be driving there in a couple of weeks, I think it is. But as you said, but I just got back from Croatia, so crossing borders left, right, and center.
Vacation stuff. I'm heading off to Copenhagen for Pokemon Go.
Ooh.
Yeah. So my mom is a huge Pokemon Go player. She shows up and she's like, hey, so I got us both tickets to Pokemon in Copenhagen. I think we should go. So the nice thing about how she does that is that she bought the tickets. They're about $25. And then I'm in charge of booking everything else for Copenhagen.
I love that.
So she knows how to play this game, and she's done well. But yeah, it's going to be fun. So
sounds like she played you like a fiddle by buying those tickets real early and sucking you in.
She threw her master ball on that one.
Yeah,
I didn't stand a chance.
Critical hit, man. Yeah. I totally.
Yeah. Always something, but
Cool.
definitely looking forward to traveling and then just sticking everything in one password. I think that's like you were stopping in the UK, so you got to get your ETA, you've got your travel things, you've got your passports, you've got all your itineraries, like putting all of that in one password, having it as a shared note, like even just travel mode for keeping things secure, but then also making sure you've got all of your reservation confirmation numbers, everything accessible. It's just so much easier. So I'm looking forward to diving into that a little bit more later on in the show. But before we get further into the show, we kick off Watchtower Weekly, we do have our giveaway winners to announce. On our last episode, we celebrated World Password Day, so we asked you to share your favorite 1Password tip or trick with us, and we've picked 3 of our favorites who will each win 1 year of 1Password for free. So our winners, we've got Rick Hensley, who said, put a copy of ID cards, such as auto insurance, membership cards, IDs, passports, use the expiration field to get reminders when the expiration is approaching. Bonus tip, you can add a photo of each document into 1Password so you've got a copy of it handy, which 100% Rick, super smart. Love that.
Oh my, I legit have a reminder in my calendar right now because I want to switch insurances, and now I'm just going to go switch it up to this because this is a great idea.
The photo as well actually is a game changer because you do think, and Rick, I wrote this down on the side to do after we've recorded this because I put all my passport information in there, but they still ask you for an uploaded photo copy. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I've given you all the details. So, Rick, great tip with adding the photo. Handy to have.
Most definitely. Our second winner is Mike Schindler, who told us, when I need to share a secret or credential, I make a secure note and then I share a link with a 1-view limit. Then in an active chat, I can send the link. If it works, access is already killed. If they can't open the link, I can kill the secret and start over. I have to trust the other person will use it correctly, but for my part, I didn't have to paste it into a team chat or send it in an email.
Links, that's a great way to do it as well. The easy thing when copying and pasting credentials is no one wants a raw text credential, so those links, the links are fantastic.
Yeah.
To also talk about, there's been definitely like threat actors out there who will take those chat platforms and you just search for keywords like password, and then bam, there's a plain text password in the chat and they can usually use it. So doing this will protect you from that.
Yeah, nothing, no plain text passwords, and using a 1-view limit, like then whoever you sent it to got it and it's done. Like it's finito. So with that, we've got our last tip from L. Tate, who said, let Watchtower alert you of weaker compromised passwords and then actually take that action on them. Which, yes, L, that's the important part, is making sure you see that there's something not great and then doing it. So I love all of those tips. So a big thank you to everyone who entered the giveaway, and congratulations to our 3 winners. And don't worry if you missed out this time, because there will be plenty more giveaways coming up on the podcast very soon.
Actually taking action is the hard part.
Oh, mate, I tell you what, I work with hundreds, if not thousands of customers doing migrations to password managers, and it's one thing to put your passwords in there, but the second thing, we help you do that next step and show you the Watchtower. So I'll take great tip. Take that action.
I try to as much as possible. I always do. I always love it. I like throwing every now and then, like seeing a new breach come up just so I know everything's working, right? Like it's the good old, like, oh, that password's been leaked years ago and changed, but yeah.
Yeah, like a proof of life, but for your passwords.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A heartbeat sensor, if you will.
That's gold. Well, now let's get into Watchtower Weekly, a segment where we unpack what's going on in cybersecurity right now. So this week, we're going to talk about a returning topic, and we've talked about it before, and we'll give you a bit of an update of what's happening in the education sector. Now, it is worth saying that the total number of cyber attacks on schools and universities, it actually remained static last year, with about 250 incidents reported in both 2025 and 2024. But that finding hides a leap in the number of exposed student records online. So we've seen the rise in a number of student information systems, alumni databases, campus networks, and third-party education platforms be targeted by cyber criminals. And earlier this month, a hacker group called Shiny Hunters, might ring a bell out there for some listeners, they launched an attack on a major learning platform that caused a disruption for 9,000 schools and universities across 46 countries, which is almost like a quarter of the world if you think about how many countries that is. It's just nuts. And that's just as students head into exam season. Maybe some students love that, depending on how you're feeling about your exams, I don't know. But you've probably seen this story in the news, but it didn't happen in isolation. Shiny Hunters has also been connected to breaches involving major universities across the world, and earlier this year, more than 1 million people had their data leaked when a university cancer research center was targeted. So this is all pretty serious stuff. But before we get into it, though, do have to take a quick pause and talk about something in Matt's honor. Sarah, Shiny Hunters. Does the name ring a bell? Where do you rank it in your top 10? Could you do better? I'm also curious too. What would you call yourself if you were a one person?
Oh,
What would your name be? Putting you on the spot.
I am not a namer. I'm not in charge of marketing. I'd be like, meh, I tried.
One password would be called Sarah's Passwords if that was
I'm
the.
trying to remember. There was something like I remember we did one of this hacker games and it was like a serial and it was so boring. It was like boring-os. So wouldn't do that. But I do think that Shiny Hunters have a pretty good hacker name. I think, sometimes they're pretty obscure, but Shiny Hunters is a pretty, like, you're aware of what that is. So as soon as I saw that name pop up in the news, I instantly thought of Matt because I can't remember if he thought that was a good one or not, but I definitely thought it would earn a nod from him as a potential good naming effort.
It's also just a great, well-rounded circle to your Pokemon trip. For a deep cut for any reference out there for Pokemon players, anyone out there who's a shiny hunter themselves, it's
yes.
That's where the name comes from.
I believe their logo was an Espeon.
Get out of town.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm. Which I feel like dark, right? Like,
wow,
it's a good one.
If only they weren't Barber, their calling card could just be leaving Espeon cards around the place. PSA graded 10 Espeon just left at the scene.
Nice.
But taking it a little bit more seriously, guys, I know we're all parents here too. Do you guys have any particular thoughts and feelings about when you see schools get targeted? Wade, you and I have younger kids. Sarah, you have some older children as well, so we can kind of have that spectrum there. But Wade, kick us off. How do you feel about schools and education bodies being targeted?
Yeah. Oh man, it's a rough one, right? So this is one of the things, like, as a security professional, you can't really build something to detect this. So you have to have a prevention and then a response plan to it. For me, like, my credit is completely locked down. Like, if I get hit with any type of like social security card, at least like we're on the US side, right? And I've been doing the same thing for my child, not even in case like when one of these breaches occurs and they're at school, like, we're going to have to be ready for it. It's just, you can't even do anything against it. Like, how can I protect? Am I going to sign up for credit monitoring for all my children? Just as, right?
Right. How about you, Sarah, with older children? Have you gone through any of this kind of stuff?
We've gotten lucky, nothing yet so far, but I think it's, especially once the kids are older, like, university, you're looking at like all of your social insurance, like all of your details are in a system now, and then it all ties into everything else. So then, if you're at school and you use the health services on campus, is that all tied to your file? And then when they have access to all of that, it just sets up that immediate, like, oh, there's the honey trap of the future. Like it's a very tempting database for people to get into. And I think oftentimes schools, I look at permission trips for field trips, all this kind of stuff you'd fill out. People, you ask for way more information than you need. And then all of that gets filed somewhere. And you have to trust that these systems are being upkept. And it's a really challenging thing. And I know it's frustrating because you want to do the best. Like, I think, like you said, credit monitoring. But like, do you really start credit monitoring for 8-year-olds? But how else do you make sure that no one's taking out a loan with their ID? It's a tricky thing.
I have a friend where his child's credit social security number got stolen at the hospital when like shortly after being born.
Really?
Yeah, which is crazy, right? Like,
That's
a
wild.
lot of the times at that level, you can actually call companies and argue about it and be like, hey, like, this is a 2-year-old. You can see that. Like, why would you allow this? And then they have to like, oh, okay, like, they send it off to fraud. But
are you sure your 2-year-old didn't want to buy a Porsche? Like, how confident are you in understanding their needs at this time?
Understanding their needs. They need a Porsche. They don't want one. They need one just to get around.
Yeah.
But you're right, Sarah. There's so much interconnectivity with them all. And I think that also goes back to that stat of a static number. It's still, remain sort of flat across 2024, 2025. But the amount of activity behind that because of all these interconnected systems. When attackers hit education, they're not just stealing the files, they're putting pressure on all systems that those students use and teachers and families rely on. And with OAuth tokens and just signing in with another service, it is so easy to give access to extrapolated level of systems as well. And it's also worth adding, we're seeing another trend play out here as well. So not just the breach itself, but the approach taken and how it played out. So instead of going down that traditional ransomware route, lock-in systems or encrypted files, Shiny Hunter and other hacker groups are now focusing on stealing data and then using that as leverage. So rather than saying, hey, pay us now and we'll unlock your systems, it's more like a pay us or release this data. And then that shift is becoming a bigger trend in how these attacks work, which is really like a bit of a behavioral shift. But why do you think that is? Wade, do you have any insight on maybe why that's becoming leverage rather than just your classic unlock?
It's not newer per se, but it is less likely to happen. So this is like what we call an extortion, right? So usually a lot of the times what happens is a threat actor will come in, ransomware you, and then they'll go back for seconds and then extort you with that data saying, hey, we're going to release it. Especially with schools, it's a little bit different. And with the recent Shiny Hunters breach, their system actually got hit during finals week, which also great timing, right? If all these schools can actually get access to their particular systems during this week when all these students are trying to turn them in, there's going to be a much bigger push to get access to it. So they did lock it down, and they also did then once again extort them for more money. It's going to be super common. I expect this to not go away. All they did was extortion, it would be easier as well, because then they don't have to have all the technicality of having to encrypt everything and then unencrypt everything, right? Which is a big undertaking. The scarier part is like, will the data ever get released? Like, can you trust these individuals? And that comes down to the ransomware operator's reputation. And if they have a reputation that lasts. And usually the thing is they want a good reputation because they want you to pay. So we'll see if Shiny Hunters if this data ever actually gets released, but hopefully not.
It's so challenging, right? It's like it's all in an ether soup.
What flavor would that soup be?
Data O's. I don't know.
Data O's.
Yeah, right? Like, just the amount of attacks that are going, and we're definitely going off the rails a little bit, especially with me going just purely on ransomware. But it's getting wild out there, right? And we're not even like, you want to throw in the other wild zinger, we'll just throw in AI. Like, how is that working out with it? But the ransomware stuff is getting crazy. And the best way you can do is prepare. One thing I don't think I've talked about a lot is I actually have a folder of a bunch of phone numbers and a bunch of lists of different things that I could call in order, if my identity were stolen, what to do, and being prepared for it, right? Think of it as like that emergency plan. I don't know if anyone's ever worked in a restaurant, but every restaurant has a folder in it to say if there's a fire, what to do and where to go. At least the restaurants I've worked in. I have that for my personal life in tech, in security. So now that I talked about it a little bit, Jaden, are we seeing more of this data theft first approach across the industry? Like, I'm speculating.
Yeah, it's certainly a broader trend we're seeing across cybersecurity. I think attackers are realizing that the encrypting systems it's not the most effective way to get paid anymore. Organizations are they're getting better backups, better recovery. So instead, attackers are going after exposed data, which is arguably harder to fix. And we all know once data's out there, you can't really undo that. If I tell you my favorite color is blue, I can't just take that back from your mind, right? So once it's out there, you got to know you can't really get it back. You can't reset it the same way you could restore a system. And that makes it much stronger bargaining tool. There are also reports that some of the organizations targeted in these recent attacks reached an agreement with the hackers and paid the ransom. But paying cyber criminals goes against the advice of law enforcement agencies around the world, as it can fuel further attacks. I believe there's some massive names out there. If you just search ransom paid, and you'll see some fantastic articles about large names, household names you'd be familiar with that have done it. And it also offers no guarantee the data has been deleted. Back to what you just said, Wade. They want to have a brand for themselves, but how do you trust someone that's already stolen something from you? So what do you guys all think on how companies should respond to like this kind of demand? How do you think a customer or a company should respond if someone was trying to leverage them?
I've always struggled with, blackmail in terms of like what you would do, because this is one of the reasons why I like the way we designed 1Password, where we don't know anything. Like, if someone were to come to me and say, you need to give us this person's password, like, I don't know it. I haven't got a clue. I can't give it to you. I think the challenging thing here is that you've got a single point of issue with the software. And so then if you've got gradingsoftware.com is the thing that's been breached, and then you've got University A paying the ransom, but not University B, but University C is over here looking at it, like, it's not the universities in particular. They're just trying to get their information back, but it's gradingsoftware.com that's been the issue. So how do they work together? I think that's sort of the other piece of it. But I think this goes back to me as a company making sure I put as little trust as possible in organizations, and then also making sure I don't put information out there. Pay it once, and then what's the guarantee you're going to get it back? What's going to happen? And I think that always worries me, and I'm paranoid and I don't trust people. So
paranoid and don't trust people. It sounds like you work in security, Sarah. Yeah, it's crazy. There are companies out there who all they deal with is ransomware negotiations, right? Like if you get ransomware, you contact one of these people, they negotiate with the operator. Usually they're in some other country where it's not illegal to pay a ransomware operator too. So you're skirting the law by taking a sidestep over it. But what wound up happening is one of these ransomware companies got caught because they were deploying ransomware, and like two of the guys working there, right? So it's like, wow, like my thing is believe none of what you hear, half of what you see type of deal. And as a security professional, that works out. Or the other good one is trust but verify.
Yeah. And Sarah, you said you don't really deal well with blackmail. I think that's a great thing to not have to deal well with, to be honest with you. If you said I deal really well with blackmail, I'd say let's sit down and see who you're surrounding yourself with.
Yeah.
We might need to help you out a little bit.
I prefer not to know anything. So if I
Like,
don't know anything, I'm not a target. So,
ignorance is
and I
bliss.
think exactly. And I think, the big takeaway here is that cyber attacks are changing, and not always in the way that people expect. It's not always about the systems that are just going down. It's not about turning things off. Sometimes it's about data being taken quietly and then being used later, and that's much harder to control. So for organizations, it's not just about protecting access. It's about understanding what data you have, where it lives, and how it could be used if it got in the wrong hands. And for the rest of us, it's a good reminder that even the tools that we use every day, like learning platforms, are a bigger part of the giant security picture that's out there. So speaking of tools that we use every day, this feels like a not so subtle way to transition over to our crash course segment. Wade, I believe you are going to take us through 1Password's travel mode today, right?
That is right. As this, our travel special, I wanted to give a quick primer on 1Password's travel mode so folks don't know about it. Hopefully this will help you out. Before we get started, out of interest, do either of you use travel mode when traveling for work or for vacation? And has it changed the way you've traveled?
Some countries, depending on where you go, have different parameters of when I go through security. They may say that I'm subject to a random search, and they can look at all of my digital content as well. So depending on where I go, I'll play that by ear. I've worked with a lot of customers, though, that do travel to countries where that is a bit more of an invasive border patrol thing. So I heavily recommend it and say, hey, what's the worst that can happen? You at least turn travel mode on. You know you're protected. Like, you're always better double down when you can protect yourself. But what about you, Sarah? You use it? Will you be using it when you go play Pokemon Go?
That is one I keep safe, and I make sure I can use that when I'm traveling, because I do that. But I turn off the majority of work stuff is all in travel mode. So if I'm heading out on a personal vacation, like I don't even have access to work stuff on my phone, just because it's not worth the risk of just having access just in case. It just feels like a nice way to just make sure everything is extra secure. So I'm a big fan. It's I know specifically some of our journalism folks out there have really found a lot of this really handy. So it's a nice thing to have. So I think, Wade, it'd be great to learn a little bit more about it for those of the folks out there that haven't heard much about it.
Yeah. I think it's very common to experience a moment of unease at the border, knowing that someone could ask to look through your phone or your laptop, right? As a security professional, that is literally probably like my worst nightmare of someone asking me, like walking up to me. The reality is that those searches do happen at airports and at other border crossing. The rules are complicated, and refusing a search can lead to delays, questions, or even having your device taken for a while. So that's the problem 1Password's travel mode is designed to address. Well, you probably already know that you can store passwords, documents, notes, and even things like passport details like we've talked about, or financial info in 1Password. Using travel mode gives you a way to temporarily remove some or all of the data from every device that has 1Password installed. So let's say that again. Travel mode gives you a way to remove your most sensitive data not hide or decrypt it, but temporarily remove it since you can't access what you don't have. You don't need to worry about the information surfacing while you're traveling, right? Have either of you found having this has taken the stress away from having to travel?
I think it kind of goes back to what Sarah was saying of like, if someone asked me for a password and I didn't have access to it, I can like very comfortably say, I don't know. So if someone said to me, give me your phone, I'm going to go through it, and I've got travel mode turned on, like I couldn't even get into it if I wanted to. I'd have to go back to a different device that I might have at home, keep in safekeepings and change my travel mode policy. So there's that level of confidence I think it gives you because it's physically not there.
I have a more of a so I scale down. This is like the scariest moment. If you have a face scanner turned on your phone, what's it called? Like Face ID, whatever.
Mhm.
Theoretically, if you have that turned on on your phone and then have it turned on in 1Password, someone could possibly get into your 1Password. So I have recently turned that on just because with kids and stuff, having to type in my password all the time has been kind of brutal. And I have been using travel mode in order to lock stuff down prematurely because I'm like, okay, it's easier for someone to take my phone away from me and then just show it to my face real quick and then get complete access to it, right? So I'm using it not just for like a travel, but for like personal security. My threat model is a little bit higher. I'm scared someone's just going to take my phone real quick while I have it and do something or figure something around with the face modeling. So it's an excellent feature.
It is. One of the most common questions we get from our customers, and if anyone's listening out there that's exploring this option for their business, is, well, what happens if we lose our device? And that's something that you do have to be cautious of. But if you do lose your device, that's a bigger issue than just credential management because gosh knows what happens. So having something like travel mode where you can remove something from your device, it helps take that one step away from saying, well, we still can't really help you if you don't have your device, but at least you know you don't have something on that device anymore you don't want there.
Jerry and I talk about that during the interview about if I were to lose my cell phone, it would be game changing for my life. Like it would just take so much effort to come back from that, right? So how does this work then, right? In 1Password, your data is organized into vaults. Maybe you have one for personal logins, one for work, another for family, and so on. Before a trip, you can decide which vaults are safe for travel and which ones are not safe for travel. With 1Password for Business, team administrators can turn travel mode on and off for team members. So if you're with a business, you got it on your phone and you want that functionality, you're going to have to ask probably. When you turn on travel mode, anything marked not safe for travel is removed from your phone, laptop, or any device with 1Password installed. Those vaults will also be unavailable on 1password.com and in the 1Password browser extension. If someone looks through your device, the data that you're marked as not safe for travel simply isn't there, right? So big things. That's like, I feel like that is such a huge sweep across all of those particular devices too. While travel mode can't stop someone from searching your device in the first place, it does let you reduce what someone can find. Instead of manually deleting things before you head to the airport, you can protect your data with a switch. And it's easy to switch back to. As soon as you're back home and turn travel mode off, all your vaults will reappear as soon as you're connected to the internet. Do you both find this easy enough to turn on when you're traveling? And when do you typically plan to remember to do it?
I've done it both ways where I just turn it off for crossing the border. And then when I get to wherever it is I'm going, I can turn it back on. So then I've got access to whatever it is. Because sometimes you're traveling for work. Sometimes it's, it's some of those websites where, you're like, I should probably not spend so much time scrolling through these things. And it's probably a benefit where it's like, this should go in timeout mode instead of travel mode, where it's, I need a break from these certain apps. So sometimes that could be another way to look at it.
That would be interesting to use for a family account, to use travel mode to limit your children's access to things.
Mate, I was thinking that's definitely like a timeout. I'm thinking how we can rebrand this now. Is it like is this like self-control mode? Is this you've just grounded the kids in the Wi-Fi passwords now, timed out for them, or like
the way I use it, right, is I have a vault that's like sensitive, and so anything I wouldn't normally want, I just store in that one particular vault. And if I'm not home, I turn on travel mode. Jaden, what about you?
Yeah, I think if I was going to be turning it on and off and when I would be doing it, and it's when I'm applying for those, Sarah, you said it before, I can't remember what it's called, but you go to like the UK and you have to apply for the visa waiver sort of stuff. I find that's a great time to, once you've submitted and done all your paperwork, maybe you're about to go out the door, maybe who knows, but that could be a great time to be like travel mode. These credentials are in a vault that's safe for travel. Try to remember it, create a habit of it, because those things are handy to have as you cross the border. Yeah.
All right, so there you have it. That's travel mode in a nutshell. A secure, easy way to protect your sensitive information while you're on the move and possibly lock down your children. And one final thing before I forget, travel mode is available for every 1Password subscription. Admins in 1Password business account can even apply it for a team members for things like work trips, conferences, or offsite meetings. So it's super convenient whether you're traveling for work or on vacation. Any final comments from you guys?
I think the main thing is just you can use this always like spring cleaning as well. So like when you kind of go through and, decide you're going to clean up things or, listen to our earlier tips from earlier where you're like, okay, let me add a picture to this or add an expiry date to that. You can always go through things. You can always use tags, use that as a temporary way to sort of say tag is safe for travel, tag is not. And then you can organize things, put them into vaults, and then come up with a vault that's like, this is my safe for travel vault. And then turn it on, turn it off. As always, though, check out our website. We've got lots of tutorials on how to use all of this stuff. 1Password is just a really, I'm biased, obviously, but like 1Password is just a really great way to store so much of your information. And there's so many ways for you to be able to go in and do that. So I highly recommend that everybody check it out.
Yeah. So the more we talk about things like travel more, the more you realize how much there is actually to think about when you're on the move. So this feels like the perfect time to bring in someone who can talk more about this. I recently had a chance to catch up with my buddy, Dr. Gerald Auger. He's a cybersecurity educator and founder of Simply Cyber. And we had a useful discussion about how to stay secure while traveling without making anything overly complicated or too stressful. We get into everything from the biggest risk people overlook to what actually matters when you're in an airport, a hotel, or public Wi-Fi, whether you're traveling with your family or for work, where the stakes can look completely different. I think you'll be able to get something from this conversation. So let's jump into it. Joining me on the show today is Dr. Gerald Auger. Jerry is a cybersecurity educator and the founder of Simply Cyber, a YouTube channel and community dedicated to making cybersecurity accessible to everyone. He's also a mentor and advocate for growing the cybersecurity workforce, helping thousands of people get into the field, whether he's breaking down the latest cyber threats or teaching foundational security habits. Jerry's approach is grounded with one goal: empowering the people and taking control of their digital lives. One of my good friends, one of my mentors, I would say, and people that I look up to. Jerry, I'm really glad you're here. How are you doing?
I'm great, Wade. Thank you very much for that kind introduction. And I look up to you too, so it's very reciprocal.
All right, I'm sure, Jerry, you're the man, though. I'm not. I'm over here. I'll try to add a couple Jerry guy jokes in here at some point or another,
okay,
at least
good, yes.
For the Simply Cyber crew. So today we're going to be talking about like travel mindset, and we're really going to tap into like how to stay safe, secure, resilient, and stress-free when you're around the world traveling, right? If you have your phone on you or your boarding pass or your computer, like some tips and tricks all about that. People are traveling all the time for vacation and business trips. We all know that cybersecurity is important, but it's the last thing on our minds when we're packing a suitcase. So when you look at modern day travel, what stands out as the biggest security risk?
Within the world of cybersecurity, like if you've worked in cyber for more than an hour, you've learned about the CIA triad, because that's like your amuse-bouche of your career's menu. And a lot of people want to, in my opinion, a lot of people want to paint confidentiality, integrity, and availability as like the big spooky one to be mindful of in while you're traveling. And for sure, it certainly is. But in my experience, availability really is the one that I'm most conscious of. And we depend, modern people depend on their cell phones so much. Like you said, online boarding passes, mad convenience, tap to pay. So it's like literally your communication vehicle, your finance vehicle, and your, logistics to be able to access things vehicle. And, if you're out and about and you're not mindful of the battery on it, which I know sounds super mundane, but guess what, guys? Some of the best security is just foundational security. So I think a lot of people don't give as much attention and mind to managing their battery and can end up in situations or just having backups more, hardcore. We could talk about this later, but like paper backups just for business continuity or personal life continuity. Because if you drop your phone in a pitcher of beer, which has happened, or you bend over to flush the toilet and boop, there you goes your phone. These are reality situations, but I really think the availability vector is the one that people don't pay as much mind to because they're like, oh, I carry this phone every single day. What's the difference? The difference is you're traveling and you're in a way different environment.
Horror story I had. I got off the plane at Heathrow in London, right? Flew over to England to realize I no longer had my wallet.
Oh my goodness.
And never found it. Right. And luckily I had backups on me with my cell phone and my passport, called the airline, called the airport. No one ever found it. It was like one of the more scarier moments I had. Immediately canceled all my credit cards. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, it's always having that backup, right?
Exactly. And I mean, that's even an inverted version of the backup where your phone, is the backup. But the important thing is that you have business continuity or DR planning and being able to know which credit cards you had in there and being able to know what phone numbers to call and stuff like that.
Yeah. So if someone hasn't thought about travel security beyond just locking their suitcase, maybe setting their password to 1234566, what should they care about getting right?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you need to be mindful of is setting yourself up for kind of worst case scenario. And I'm not saying like you sit down and do a tabletop exercise of like, all right, like I lost my phone. Now what do I do? But having your main itinerary, right? Where are you staying? What's the phone number? Who's your key contacts that you need to meet with or whatever, if you're doing business or whatnot. And just having that printed out for me personally, in a carry-on bag, like something that's on my physical person so I know I can't lose it, including emergency numbers. But the other thing is being mindful of securing your key accounts before you go. So like you shouldn't wait until you're about to travel to turn on MFA or multi-factor authentication for all your things. But imagine, if you will, that you're on travel, business or personal, you're touring the Louvre, right? All of a sudden, and then you get a notification that your main Gmail account has been compromised, or that you've got this massive fraud on your credit card. Well, now you're in a foreign area dealing with things that, are not your creature comforts, and you're trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. Whereas if you had just prepared in advance to make sure that you had those protection capabilities implemented, then, you're less likely to do that. It's basically, dude, I mean, if anyone listening has done incident response, it's like the worst, it's the worst, unless you do it all the time and you're just naturalized to it. But if you do it all the time, you probably work with clients that don't do it all the time. And you can see that they're anxious, they're emotional, they're reacting, and that you don't want to be that person as your personal life is getting dismantled by some threat actor while you're in a foreign land. So to me, like, it really is about prepping and protecting kind of those key core elements of your own personal life before you go, so you can essentially reduce the risk. Again, I'm a GRC dork, right? So I'm always thinking about risk and risk mitigation, risk aversion, even going as far as having like a burner phone or a burner laptop in some extreme cases. If you're going to like a foreign country that, they're going to take your device at immigration and disappear with it for a minute, right? Like that's okay. Like, and what are you going to do? Say no? Like, good luck with that.
Yeah. That's why 1Password has literally a setting for that, which is wild. There's a setting, so if you're traveling to a hostile country, it'll like add on some secure functionality around 1Password.
Oh, that's cool.
Right. It's crazy that stuff like that is needed, but definitely is, especially in modern day technology where next thing you know, you're in a room and they just plug into all your devices and have a copy of everything. So
yeah,
we're going to talk about both vacation and work trips today. Are they very different when it comes to cybersecurity best practices, or should people be following the same advice and the same mindset?
That's an interesting question. I think a lot of the foundational stuff, the cyber hygiene stuff, especially as a cybersecurity professional, you kind of bring that automatically to your personal life and your work life. I would say that there is a bit of an additional layer of security when it comes to business. So you're doing all the foundational stuff personally, but on the business side, you do have to think through, you're handling assets that could be very valuable that are not yours. So then you begin to introduce liability and risk to yourself, potentially your employment if things go really sideways. One thing that also, I don't, you see in the business world, but not on personal travel, is like physical copies, right? So if you print something out, which is not uncommon, I don't really care if like I leave my itinerary in an Uber. Do I want to do that? No, I'm not super happy about that. The risk is pretty low on that one. But if I print out contracts or proposals or intellectual property and I accidentally leave that in an Uber, well, now we've got a real problem, and that's not something I can easily manage. Now, the Uber driver probably doesn't care. They're just going to clean it out, throw it in the trash. But it's a risk exposure, right? And then if we get into controlled, legally regulated documents like, PHI, for example, or, privacy, if you're in the European Union, that type of stuff, you could introduce real financial regulatory penalties, which would be gross. So to me, it's like all the basic cyber hygiene across the board. But then on the business side, it escalates a bit when you give consideration to that data specifically.
Definitely. That, like, you hit all the points that I would normally think about, right? Like when I'm thinking about traveling too, like, of course your first end goal is like across country lines, but if you're just traveling for work in a car, right? You don't want to put your laptop in a visual location. You want to keep it in the trunk, and then even in the trunk in some certain places, it's not safe there. So you got to take it with you.
Yeah, 100%. And again, this gets back to, essentially availability, right? Because if you have your laptop, hopefully you have full disk encryption and, you have passwords to log in and whatnot. I mean, that's pretty standard in 2026, but the availability of it being stolen is very, very disruptive. And crimes of opportunity are likely to happen if you provide the opportunity, like leaving it out in the open versus a motivated threat actor who's going to try to jimmy open your trunk or whatever.
Yeah. All right, let's shift gears a little bit and go with leisure and consumer travel. So before you leave, what are some of the most overlooked security steps you think people skip?
There's a couple different dimensions. As far as the most, I mentioned, I think it's incredibly valuable to make sure that your main email and other kind of critical accounts have MFA on them. I think it's about all preparation as well. I know that this is a bit of an obscure one, but when we are preparing to leave, if you're traveling with family or whatever, I always like to provide some type of packet. I know this is going to sound way over the top, but trust me, you'll be happy. Okay. I provide some type of packet to an individual that's not traveling with me. So if it's just me by myself going to Black Hat, I'll give it to my wife. If it's the whole family, I'll give it to her mother. And it's basically like, here's where we're going to be. Here's all the contact information of where we're going to be. Here's the flights we're going to be on. Because if, you get some deep faked phone call or you hear something in the news or whatever, if there's any issues, if there's an emergency, again, we're focused on the traveler here, but say there's an emergency back at home, like not being able to not be reached because no one knows where you are or what you're doing. Is problematic, right? Maybe sometimes, guys, your cell phone is in a dead zone. You know what I mean? And like you're not getting a call because you're at Fort Meade where there's like an entire blacked out region around that thing. So being able to provide information and actionable, intelligence for an independent party to coordinate with, to me, is super valuable. That way you kind of circumvent any kind of deep fake, voice cloning type nonsense that goes on, and it gives you a guaranteed authoritative sense of trust or truth that you can work with. Another one, if we want to get more technical and nerdy, that I like, again, both professional and personal, is they make these like travel routers. I have one right here. If you're listening on audio only, I'm just showing it right here. I'm not going to name a specific brand or anything, but this thing is about the size of a cell phone. And it's a full Wi-Fi 6 router, VPN integrated. You can plug it all up and configure it. But the nice thing is you show up at a location, whether it's a house rental, a hotel, you're on a cruise ship, whatever. You fire this thing up and you connect it as a client to the wireless network, and then all of your devices connect in through that thing. It's going to give you two things. One, if you have kids, they just turn on their iPad and all of a sudden they're connected because you've already pre-programmed it for this device, no matter what network you connect to. Secondly, with confidence that all of the communication is encrypted. You can VPN back to your mothership if you want. Of course, you're going to have bandwidth constraints, so maybe not everybody can stream all the things. But, that level of network layer security is peace of mind. I'm a big fan of risk avoidance, right? So if I can just mitigate the risk all the way down, I don't have to think about those particular elements when I'm, executing whatever personal travel or business travel I have. And then finally, in my opinion, no matter where you stay, whether it's a hotel, Airbnb, a friend's house, your physical space is not guaranteed as secure. A maid can walk into your thing. Whoever owns the Airbnb can come in. Your friend has access to the house. So you are introducing physical security risk to your assets, your laptop, your phone, whatever, if you leave them around. So you have to do the risk calculation at that point. Like if someone were to get in here and get on this, what's the likelihood of that? And then what's the most extreme impact? And if it's unacceptable risk, you better get a backpack that can carry a laptop because you're taking it with you.
The travel routers part is really interesting. I think from a cybersecurity perspective, right? I've seen users use those in order to fool locations on where they are, right? Sometimes there's a fingerprint for them. But then on my side, when using them, theoretically, you only have to pay for one device to connect to the internet, and you could have multiple devices. But that's probably against the terms of services, and you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, definitely make sure you read that splash page, EULA, before you do it.
Let's talk about a little bit during travel. So what are the high-risk moments of the average traveler? Do you think airports, hotels, public Wi-Fi, festivals?
So with this particular one, I think public Wi-Fi is something to give consideration to, whether it's at an airport or whatever. Could be interesting. I mean, there's been numerous, at most, Black Hat and the larger cybercons, you've always got some knuckleheads that are standing up lookalike SSIDs to trick you to log in. I will say that I am the guy that if I'm at a conference and I want to join the wireless network, I will go find the poster. There's usually posters with here's the network name and ID, or I'll take a picture as I'm entering the conference. So I definitely verify what the network is. I don't ask my friend, what's the network? I go find the poster. Now, if a threat actor wants to print out a malicious poster, or malicious QR code, okay, I guess they've got me this time.
No, making it a little bit more official totally makes sense, right? So let's go to what I think would be my total disaster. If your phone gets lost or stolen on a trip, what determines whether it's a minor inconvenience or a total disaster?
All right. Well, here's what you got to think about on how nauseous you're going to feel when you realize your phone doesn't exist. Number one, is it got any corporate access? Does it have secrets on it, right? If yes, then you're actually kind of lucky, probably because it's highly likely enrolled in some type of mobile device management solution, which means you can call help desk and get it remotely wiped. So by virtue of it being higher risk, you have additional control for it. So what I would say is, as far as oh my God, or number one, can it be remotely wiped? Corporate, probably. Personal, unlikely. Second law, by default, when you on Android and iOS, when you configure it with a PIN lock, which I don't know why you wouldn't have a PIN lock at this point in your life, or biometric, by default, when the phone is locked, the hard drive is encrypted at rest. So if you do lose it, unless they know your PIN or they're going to somehow get into it a different way through one of these Cellbrite tools or whatever, which I don't even know if those work anymore, you're probably fine. It doesn't make you feel good because you don't have peace of mind, but you're probably going to be fine. So that's kind of like the risk of unauthorized access. Now, flipping the script on availability, this one is where I'm nauseous because number one, by the way, you should also ensure that you've configured your phone's settings so like notifications are not displayed when the phone's not authenticated against. From an availability perspective, dude, like my phone has my credit cards, my license. It's how I call people. It even has, I don't know if people think about this. It has all my phone numbers. Dude, I'm 46. When I was a kid, I could tell you everybody's phone number. I don't know anyone's phone number now because it's in my phone, right? So you lose your phone.
Yeah.
How are you going to call somebody?
My biggest thought so all my MFA tokens, of course, all are on my phone, right? Or all my MFA is tied back to the phone in some sort of way. And to reset that would be such a task where I do not even want to think about it. All right, so that's vacation mode. We'll move out of that. But for a lot of people, the stakes get a lot higher when it's not just your data, but like we were saying, it's your company's data, right?
Mm-hmm.
The business mode, when you have to start thinking about where you're setting your laptop. Like, how does the risk profile change the moment you're traveling for work instead of leisure?
When you're traveling for work, you have elevated risk because not only do you have elevated data, elevated information that has more value than your own personal information very likely does. You're typically engaging in like more, business activity, right? So when you go on travel with your personally, maybe you carry a laptop around and stuff like that, but for the most part, when you're traveling for business, I mean, you're like carrying all your assets all the time and you're setting up in random offices, you're setting up in random coffee shops and stuff like that, doing real work. Not to say that I shoulder surf on people, but it's pretty obvious. If you're looking at a slide deck or Excel or, some type of Zoom call or whatever, like it's very obvious you're doing business. So depending on what a threat actor's intentions are, you're more likely to be disclosing that you're doing business when you're doing business than personal, just because of the virtue of what you'll be doing. Like if you're on a fun travel, you're probably doing touristy stuff or hanging out at the beach. You're not like cracking open multiple monitors and doing all that stuff.
Let's think about like during travel, like what are the biggest real world threats business travelers have right now that people underestimate? And do you think, are any of them being more complicated because of AI?
So, I mean, when you're on travel, your entire itinerary is in your email, right? So like where you're traveling, who you're traveling to see, like what all that you're doing. If someone gets in there, it would be trivial to spoof my number and say I'm from Hertz Rental Car and be like, hey, what's up? We've got a problem with your rental car that you're supposed to be picking up in Atlanta or in, Kazakhstan or wherever. Let me get with you and begin essentially some type of like social engineering attack. Same with like the flights, like, oh, hey, your flight's going to be canceled unless you pay this fee or whatever. Like that's more of a small time petty thug financial one, but you can imagine that you can manipulate somebody at that point. Also, hey, like this is Wade from the help desk. We noticed that your device is coming in from Romania right now. Yeah, I'm in Romania. Yeah, we know that you're in Belarus or wherever, but we're actually seeing it come from a different spot in Romania or whatever. Like let's do some checking, like let me log into your computer really quick and fact check you. Again, when someone is traveling, they don't have their comforts. They're not in their home. And it really tips the balance in the favor of the threat actor just because of all of the unknowns that, humans are comfort creatures. So when you remove all that comfort, you've got a really soft target.
One of the things that my family does, which I'm pretty sure I've talked about on this podcast before, is we have a password, and that if anything gnarly were asked or done, we have to verify that password with one of our family. We all have the same one. Since talking about it, I have actually added it to my 1Password. So I could theoretically share it to someone and be like, hey, this is the password we're using. Like especially me as someone who there's enough YouTube video out there to completely take my voice and make some fake AI versions of me, right? Having that is very important, I think, nowadays.
I would 100% agree. I feel like that should almost be a standard business practice, within your team.
Yeah.
I tried to implement that with my family because there is thousands of hours of me online, right? Like people even make deep fakes of me in their talks to demonstrate how to do it.
I believe
and I tried. Yeah, I tried to set up one of these passwords with my family, and I have 2 young boys. We couldn't get aligned on what the word was. I wanted the word to be meatloaf sandwich, right? Because I was thinking, I'm never going to say meatloaf sandwich, but it's a funny G.I. Joe meme. And my son's like, that's the dumbest word. No. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, I'm not saying meatloaf sandwich. I'm like, come on, dude. Just like, it doesn't matter. You'll probably never need to know it, but it has to be something obscure and weird. So like, no one will say it by accident, and it'll be easy to remember. He's like, well, pick something else because I'm not saying meatloaf sandwich. And I'm like, all right, we'll back away. We'll just have you be deep faked that I've been kidnapped. Thank you.
You needed to drill it in at a younger age. I think my parents first gave me this password at like first grade.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, we do that with Uber nowadays, right? Like you have to say the first name.
That's a very good point, which brings us to another great topic. Is there anything people should be mindful of when they're actually taking taxis or local transport?
Oh, man. I mean, Uber, verifying the license plate of the person that you're going to be connecting with, verifying the name. For me personally, I always will get in and say like, I know that the driver knows we're going to the airport, but I will always say like, hey, thanks for picking me up, Wade. Heading to the airport. And they're like, yep. Like, no one's ever said no, but like the last thing I want is to be taken somewhere that I'm not expecting to go.
Yeah. Where do you see people prioritizing convenience over security in ways that could seriously backfire?
If you're doing a group trip, whether it's work or usually more personal, but like people will share credentials, right? Like I don't do this, but like, oh, hey, like here's my Verbo creds. Like that way you can log in and see all the stuff, or like, like convenience of sharing creds. Well, a couple things. One, there's typically a paper trail now, or digital paper trail of like your username and cred somewhere. 2, if you're reusing those credentials, you've kind of like blown out all of that. That's certainly one. And then, I mean, what else about convenience?
I can fix your password one, like more 1Password products. The shared functionality within 1Password is actually pretty good. So like if you could make a folder, it's like the travel folder, and then give everyone access to it and be like, hey, here's all the passwords. Here's the door combo to the Airbnb, right? And all this stuff.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times convenience is typically around speed, right? So like setting up the travel router, like, okay, but if it's easier to just jump on the wireless network and just do your thing. Like, oh, okay, it's just a quick second or whatever. Scrubbing through those networks. Like you might even get on like a rogue wireless access point and not even think twice about it because you're just trying to get online and do something really quickly.
So we often think as 1Password is almost like a digital fanny pack, right? A single secure place for credentials, documents, credit cards, you name it. Do you think that this is a helpful concept for travelers, right? Like if you to throw all your data into 1Password, like it is a little scary because it's in one single area, but now you at least have your passport and all that stuff in at least in one spot.
That's an interesting concept. I hadn't given consideration to like a digital fanny pack or a digital backpack. But I like the idea. I like secure convenience. And what I mean by that is like that's a single spot where you can put all the things. And some of them are like long term, like a copy of your license, a copy of your passport. Some are more transactional or ephemeral, like your itinerary for the upcoming travel, the Airbnb confirmation. But it would be interesting to be able to easily share like one folder with trusted people, and then be able to like remove that access afterwards. So you're like really treating it almost like a cleared space, if you will, which I really like. It's almost like conditional access.
You can share items and stuff across. That's the big one, right? Like I've got my wife to buy in on it, and that's how we share a lot of our stuff is via there. Like if I have an account that she wants to log into, I'll share it to her via there, or she'll yell at me because I forgot to put it in the right folder usually.
Yeah, no. I love that. And honestly, the convenience too, because it's not uncommon. I mean, this is more of a convenience thing than anything, but it's not uncommon when I'm on travel for my wife to call me and ask me for like the Disney Plus password because I'm the one who's captured all of them. So, being able to share that in a more, easy way, instead of like she texts me and then I text her the password back. Like I know it's end-to-end encrypted now, but like it's still not something I want. You're introducing it to another medium.
Yeah. All right. Switch topic to something we haven't talked about, which is risk transferal. How do you feel about travel insurance? Do you think it helps mitigate risks?
I think a lot of dimensions of your individual, requirements and needs, insurance can meet some of them. But from a cyber perspective, I mean, if I lose my phone or I leave documents in an Uber or I join a malicious wireless network and they sniff my traffic and steal my creds or something, like the impact in the blast is so much more significant that insurance isn't even going to make me feel better. Like even if they gave me like $10,000 or whatever, like that, like I'm still dealing with a massive cleanup. Like this isn't money isn't fixing this problem. Money is nice, but like I'm dealing with real problems right now. And and you probably get the money in like 6 months anyways, right?
Yeah. All right. To wrap us up today, where can folks go to learn more about you and check out Simply Cyber videos, or what are some other things that you got going on?
Well, this has been a great conversation. And if you're still with us listening, I hope you got value from it and just enjoyed. Wade is an absolute delight to listen to and get his opinions and takes. What I would say is we have a lot going on at Simply Cyber for sure, but I would recommend everybody check out the daily cyber threat brief every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time, free 5 days a week. And it's live on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/@simplycyber or just look me up online, Gerald Auger, you'll find Simply Cyber. You can even go to cyberthreatbrief.simplycyber.io. It's got its own dedicated page now. It's pretty dope. I mean, there's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, including Wade, of cyber professionals joining us every day live for the threat brief that I lead, but also to engage in networking and community relationship building. It's just a phenomenal experience going on over there. So check us out every morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, weekdays, cyberthreatbrief.simplycyber.io.
Awesome. Jerry, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. It was a pleasure and hope you have a good one.
Thank you, Wade.
All right. Well, and just like that, we are nearing the end of our show. Thank you to Gerald and Wade for that great interview. Appreciate all of the information and sharing those pro travel tips with everyone. If you'd like to learn more about how to stay secure while traveling this summer, we can make sure to link the 1Password blog post in our show notes. And then before we get into identity theft, a reminder that if you have any questions for us, please send them over to us by emailing podcast@onepassword.com. We'll be sure to answer them in a future episode. So with that, it is time to finish off with our game, Identity Theft.
It's identity theft. Guess who they're claiming to be? Fire your yes or no questions for security and catch, tech, fake ID.
All right, so welcome to Identity Theft, our identity guessing game. Before we play, here's a quick recap of the rules. I, the host, have stolen the identity of a well-known person, celebrity, or fictional character. Jaden and Wade can ask me yes or no questions to narrow down who I am. At any point, when they think they know who I am, they can buzz in. To buzz in, they can shout single factor or multi-factor. If they shout multi-factor, they have to give me my name and at least 2 correct facts about me. If they can do this, they'll earn 2 points. If they shout single factor, they just know my name, and that's cool, and they'll get a point. It's a pretty crass portrayal of how multi-factor authentication actually works, but, we're doing the best with these fun games. So those are the rules, and now it's time for me to give you a clue on whose identity I've stolen today. The clue is I live a double life.
Wade, you're shaking your head. Are you lost here, mate? Do you?
The first person that comes to mind is Hannah Montana. That's
I love that.
Yeah, I was thinking some Miley Cyrus.
The answer to that is sadly no.
okay.
No, see, it's kind of good because I'm piping hot for a win here. I tell you what, I haven't got one under my belt. Wait, I'll let you ask the first question though.
All right. Are you a person? Are you
Um,
or human? How will go? Are you human?
I am a human. Yes.
I have to ask that from the last questions now to verify.
Yes.
All right. Are you tied to Hollywood?
Yes.
Say it with less confidence. Yes. Okay.
Are you on TV? Are you in TV shows?
Yes.
Okay.
You're in the TV. You're in the computer.
I'm in the TV.
TV shows.
Double
Whoa.
life TV show.
Are you female?
No.
Male, double life. No one watch. It's not even gonna be male either. I feel like at one time I want to have Claude on in the background listening to me so I can help you. Have you been popular in the last 10 years?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm only 10 years old, so I'm going to struggle here. The hard part is asking the questions without giving away too much to the other person.
I know.
I did. I've
Last
done that.
10 years. Are you North American?
I believe I am. Yes.
Are you a children's character?
No.
Oh, okay. Recap. We're tied to Hollywood. Where we identify as a male that believes they're North American. And they're associated with TV shows.
In the last 10 years.
I think you guys are leaning towards like real person. Like I'm
Ah.
played by a real person, but
a
I
fictional
am
character.
Oh,
I am
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Like I feel like I need to narrow it that way so that you know
Okay.
that
Okay. I
you're
figured
not
it- I
going
figured
for
it
the
was
actor. You're going for
I
the
was going for the actor, so I appreciate that.
I was not. Hence, and that's Hannah Montana.
Well, you said Hannah Montana.
trying to-
Similar. It's a
similar situation.
yeah.
Okay.
Dual identity, I believe, is I think that would be a good comparison.
I watch a lot of TV too, to tell you guys the truth. Like it. Are you a spy?
I am not a spy.
Okay.
Do you want to give us that clue, Sarah, or should I
Yes.
ask?
I work in a similar industry to all of us. I am in a cybersecurity industry.
Oh, I thought you had an aha moment then for a second, Wade, and it panicked because I don't have that aha moment.
I'm in cybersecurity. I'm not a spy.
Are you Mr. Robot?
Did you want to say single factor?
Single factor, yeah, because I
Single
All right, single factor, Mr. Robot, yeah. Then it's-
I am indeed Mr. Robot. Thank
Ah.
We're getting that.
Well done. Do you have any facts about Mr. Robot, Wade, then?
Yeah, I can list a couple of really good ones. The show itself has a lot of good accuracy to cybersecurity. There's one famous scene where Rami Malek, he actually states his name as Dave Kennedy, who is a well-known person in the cybersecurity industry who was like a person they asked for help on cybersecurity. There's an episode where they're out of fries and fries no longer exist, which is always sad. Yeah.
Oh, man. I need to up my game, guys.
Well, if you've never watched the show, so some of us haven't seen it. So I know when Anna gave it to me, I was like, Rami Malek is the actor, and Elliot Anderson is also known as Mr. Robot, dual life cybersecurity engineer who lives a double life, protecting systems by days and hacking them by night. So the show follows his involvement with a group trying to take down powerful corporations, including Evil Corp. Mr. Robot and Rami's performance in particular is widely praised for the realism with hacking based on real-life tools and techniques, making it one of the more accurate portrayals of cybersecurity in Hollywood. So
anyone who's trying to get into cybersecurity, that's one of the things, like I always preach to try to like consume different media for it and like TV shows, movies and stuff. And Mr. Robot is always on that list. It's really cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'll add it to my pat leave nap time, list of things to watch. Maybe
You
squeeze it up.
definitely, no, it is definitely on that. Okay. I expect the full report when you come back.
Oh, jeez. I'm going to extend my pat leave by 6 months.
nice.
Love that.
And that's the end of the show. If you listened to this far, thanks for sticking with us and continuing to choose random but memorable. And a special thank you to Gerald for stopping by and joining us for the show and to help make travel security a little less overwhelming. And if you're loving the show this season, please do leave us a review. Let us know what you think on your favorite podcast app, or you can comment on any of our episodes on the Random But Memorable YouTube channel. With all that said, the only thing left to say is thank you both, and until next time.
Hey,
See you later.
thank you both. Have a good one.